So it's been a while since I filmed with this GoPro. I've been filming everything with my phone. It's just been easier. Anyway, the garage is somewhat emptied out. I had the Walker MT there and then the Toro in front of it, as you guys saw in the last video. But today I hooked the plow up, moved it back, pulled that truck out, and I took the Walker B and stuck it out back because I don't need to do anything to that. There's nothing wrong with that thing. So I stuck that out back, and then I put the MT and the Wright in the trailer here. The reason the Wright is up here, in case that thing sells or anyone calls on it, it's right up front here. I don't have to track it through the snow, the mud, everything else, and it's already up here. But the MT, I got work to do to that thing this winter. It runs great, it mows, it bags up leaves, as you guys saw in my fall cleanups, but there's just things I have to do to it. So I'm not done with the Toro. A lot of people said winter project and got it done in a week. I'm still waiting on a bunch of parts and stuff, but let me show you what I've done. So I went to Ryan's and we got the new tires on. I don't know how well you can see that in here. I got the brand new tires put on, and then I put the two front ones on, the new ones. They're nice tires. They're gonna do what I need to do, but those are brand new. Rims are new, tires are new. I gave it a bath today since it's pretty decent outside. I gave it a bath. Those rims cleaned up. The back ones on both sides cleaned up great. They're good to go. So, you know, the deck and everything cleaned up pretty good. It's faded. It's got some scuffed marks on it, but all in all, it's pretty good. Let me see if I can close this door down and stop getting all the reflection from the sun. So anyway, you know, the deck has some scratches, some scuffs, but no big deal. It cleaned up pretty nice, actually. So these came in today, these new hand grips you guys saw in the last video. That had duct tape all over it, so I cut all that off, put the new hand grip on. That one I put on, started to get on, and you can see there's still some there that isn't gone on yet. I can't get this thing on. I put grease in there, I put everything in there, and that's how I was able to get that one on. This one I got on this far. I can't get it the rest of the way. I will get it. It'll just take time. But anyway, so it runs great, and I drove it up and down the driveway, down the road, and it ran really well. I engaged the blades, everything engaged perfectly fine on that. I had to scrape the deck out. I did that yesterday. That was a nightmare. He just had so much grass and stuff packed in there. But anyway, I got it all out, and I was worried because I've bought mowers used before that had a bunch of grass packed underneath there, and once I scraped it out, there ended up being pitting all over inside the deck from the grass just rotting the deck. But there was none of that. The deck's perfectly smooth under there, so that's good. The one thing I really like, and what I've noticed on the new Toros, this is different. Now, all I have to do is lift this up, it loosens it, and then I can slide that baffle back and forth and close the mouth off some. So when you're bagging, you want it closed off. When you want a full discharge, heavy wet grass, you want it wide open. And then when you get it to where you want it, you just pull this over, lock it down. The new ones, from what I can tell, have a nut right there. You loosen up the nut and you move it from A, B, C, you know, the 3 different positions. And I don't like that, because then you got to carry a wrench with you all the time. And if you have one in your trailer, that's fine, like most of us do. But if you're out in the middle of mowing and you decide you want to change it and you're ways away from the truck and trailer, you got to have a wrench on you. So I like this. Now I can just lift it up, move it, fold it back down. It does have this plate in here. Now, I've made a video in the past. These plates, it has 2 nuts that hold it in, one there and one there. On the Skags and the X marks, there's 1 nut up here and 1 right there. And this plate will come right out of here, and it allows better flow, better discharge. And I've showed you on all my X marks I've had in the past, I've owned 3, the 2 Vantages and the Laser Z, and I've taken it out of all of them. All the Skags I've owned, I think I've owned 3 or 4 of those. I've taken it out of every one of them. Mike from Something to Look At saw me do it in one of my videos, and he tried doing it with his Cheetah, and he loved it. It worked great for him, but for some conditions, he likes it in there. So he goes back and forth. But either way, I will probably end up taking that out as well, because I want this mouth wide open. I don't want nothing restricting it. The Wright has one of those, but you can't remove it. It's welded in there. I do not like that. So for this mower to probably come out, the one thing I'm going to do right now is I'm going to change the hydro fluid in the filter. A lot of people have asked me for a video on this because they you know, they need to get it done on theirs. Super simple on this one, actually. Everything's really easy to get to. You have this line that comes down and it goes right into the bottom of this reservoir. You can just take the clamp off of that line and let it just drain right out of there, and then change the filter, and then fill it back up with fluid. Some people go right through and drain out the hydro motors, everything. I don't do any of that. Never have. There's no need to, unless you're replacing one of those or unless you have an issue back there. There's no issues on this mower. So all I'll be doing is draining out this reservoir, changing the filter, and I'm not taking any lines off. What I have is, I have one of these here, and you can hand pump it, or you can just hook the air line to it from your compressor, open the valve, and this is a vacuum, and it sucks all the stuff right out of there. There's like, I don't know, 20, 30 different brands of this. Mine just says EWK, excellent working experience, EWK tool. And I think I paid like 75 bucks for this on Amazon. But like I said, you can hand pump it if you don't have a compressor, or you just hook the compressor and it creates a vacuum and you suck the stuff right out. It comes with, here's all the different tubes that it comes with. So I've never used any of those, but so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to hook the line to it, and I'm going to stick it right down here inside this cap, and I'm going to suck all that fluid out of there, and then I'm going to pull that filter off and change that filter. So and that's it. That's all it takes. You probably can't see down in there, but hold on, let me get you a light. I don't know if you can see in there, but there's just a little residue left down there, but it's empty. There's nothing in there. And there is two marks. I don't know if you can see them. One says hot, one says cold. You just fill it up to the cold mark as long as it's cold and you haven't been running this. This one's cold, so you just fill up to the cold mark and then you are full. So now to take the filter off. I just have this little pan here. I've had it for a long time. I don't even know where I got it. It's just a thin little like aluminum pan. What I used to use, I used to go to the dollar store and get like the tin foil baking pans for like baking small loaves of bread, and I used to use one of those because you can get them real low profile, or you can even just cut them down so they're low profile, and you can slide them under places like where you're taking an oil filter out, things like that, and it just makes it a lot easier to do, places where you can't get a big pan in. So what I'm going to do is, there is some flex to these hoses, enough that I can move them down and I can shove this pan in there so that it'll catch any residual coming off of this filter. So just take your filter wrench. Oh yeah, this bad boy ain't been off in a while. I'm literally peeling the paint off this thing. Holy cow. Okay, so this sucker hasn't been off in a while. Jeez Louise. I've destroyed this filter. I don't know if anything will come out of here. Oh yeah, there's some black nasty fluid coming out of there. Actually, it's just my shadow, so it's not that black. But this filter's mangled. Now, usually when it's hydro filters, they range. Some require a 25 micron and some require a 10 micron filter. This mower requires a 10 micron filter. Now, I know people have said to me in the past, oh, you can put a 25 micron, you know, on to where a 10 micron is supposed to go. And there's a chance that you can do that. I mean, I don't know. I guess I'm not going to tell you you can't do it, because you probably can. But here's the issue with that. If you're running a 25 micron filter where a 10 micron is supposed to be, then that 25 restricts the flow of the fluid more than the 10 does. So if your system is only rated to be restricted so much and you restrict it even more, you might start running into problems. So if it were me, just put on there what it calls for. I'd say that would be your best bet. Now I just clean this up and I make sure nothing's in there. You really don't want anything in your oil either, like when you're doing your oil filters, but oil isn't as finicky as hydro fluid. When you're talking hydro fluid and you're messing with hydro systems, you do not want stuff in there. You get a little bit of dirty stuff in there, you're going to start running into big problems. Now this filter, the part number for the actual Toro filter is 1-633750. 1-633750. This one here, I ordered it and it said OEM Toro filter, and it came in and it says, let's see here, it doesn't say anything on the filter as far as Toro, but on the box it says John Deere. So I did run the part number off this just to make sure that it is a 10 micron filter. Ow. And it is. So that's a plus. But is it an OEM Toro filter? I would bet that it probably is not. But either way, it's the right size, the right thread, and it is a 10 micron filter, which is all I care about. So as long as it's a 10 micron filter and it fits in there nice and snug like it's supposed to, and it doesn't give me any issues, then I'm okay. So let's get some fluid in this. While you're in here, now like I said, you don't need that tool to suck all the fluid out of there. You can take off your bottom line right there, which comes down from the mount for your filter. There's this line here that goes in and goes straight up into the bottom of this reservoir. So you can just pull the clip off there and pull that right out of there if you want. But it's a good idea to check your hoses while you're in here. Make sure there's no cracks, no dry rot, nothing. You see this right here, that gap? I don't like that. That tells me that hose is not on there far enough. There's plenty of slack in this hose, so I'm going to loosen this clamp up, slide this hose on the rest of the way, and put that clamp back on. Now, almost every mower I've ever owned, I run Mobile One 2050 in the hydraulic systems. Some manuals call for 1550, some call for 2050. Many people will tell you it makes a difference. It really does not. You might get a slight variation with different temperatures outside, but either way, like I said, I run 2050 and 1050, or 2050 and 1550 in all my machines, and I've never had a hydro issue ever. So this one here, since the manual calls for 1550, I thought I only had a case of the 2050. I do have a case of the Mobile One 1550 as well. It's advanced full synthetic, and it's what the manual calls for. So we're going to put 1550 in this since that's what it calls for. And like I said, there's It's that one there says hot, and that one, if I can see here, that one down there says cold. And since this system is cold, I'm going to fill it up right to the cold level, and I'm going to let it sit for a few minutes. A lot of it will go into this filter once it gets to that level. But then I'm going to start it up and I'm going to run it for a minute. I'll drive it down the driveway and back just to make sure the fluid is getting in there. And then I'll come back and I'll let it sit for a few minutes, and then I'll take the cap off and check it and make sure the fluid is where it's supposed to be. Okay, so to get to the full level, it did take almost a full quart. So it's, I don't know if you can see, it's down to almost to the 4 ounce mark right there. So it took almost all that to fill me up right to the lower one that says cold. Now, first when I went to go, I pressed forward on the levers and the machine didn't move. And it's going to do that because there wasn't anything in the filter. And you have to wait for it to build up pressure and push that fluid through the filter. The units that have a straight up and down filter, I fill those filters first and then screw them on. This one here with it sideways, I couldn't do that because it's all going to drain right out as soon as you try to screw it on. Just something you have to deal with if you have this style. I believe the X marks, the filter screwed straight up from the bottom, so those I was able to screw or fill it up first and then screw it on. But either way, so I just held pressure on them forward until the machine started to move a little bit, and I rolled forward over to here, and then I pulled back on them, and I went back and forth, and it just went real slow. And I did that about 4 or 5 times on low idle. I didn't want it on high idle because I don't want those hydro pumps to try turning too fast without the pressure of the fluid going through them. So I did it real slow on low idle, back and forth 3 or 4 times, and then I drove it out there and I kept on low idle back and forth a few times just to get that fluid flowing through there and through the filter. So now we're good to go here. There's no leaks coming out of the filter, which is what I wanted to see. And I'll check this fluid now, and the fluid is definitely down low. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to top that fluid back off, and I'll let it sit, and then maybe tomorrow or something I'll check it again and see where the fluid level is.